Well, it looks like grocery prices are still rising at a far higher pace than overall inflation, despite moderating somewhat in July. The price of groceries grew 8.5% in July compared to last year. That's down from a 9.1% annualized gain in June, as prices for fresh fruit and bakery products rose at a slower pace. However, it's a far cry from headline inflation of 3.3%, which has significantly fallen from a high of more than 8% last year, but rose in July. RBC economist Claire Fan says that food price inflation is expected to continue easing in the coming months. This comes as lower commodity prices and easing supply chain pressures pass through to retail products. Some forecasters are saying that the latest inflation report has raised the odds of an interest rate hike next month from the Bank of Canada. Well, joining us now to unpack all of this is Dr. Moshe Lander, economist and professor at Concordia University. Dr. Lander, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Hello.
So why has overall inflation increased while food prices have fallen somewhat? What is driving up overall inflation, sir?
So remember, Nima, that when we talk about inflation, it's a basket of goods and services and how that average price is tracking. So in this case, grocery prices are coming down, or at least they're not accelerating as fast. But this past month, the big guilty culprit was gasoline. And so gasoline, which has been a drag on inflation for the past few months, is now an accelerant of inflation.
And as you say, mortgage interest costs and gasoline are having a major impact on inflation. Now, we know why mortgages are higher, but what is driving up the cost of gas?
Part of it could just be something as simple as transportation, right? People like to drive in the summer. People like to fly in the summer. People like to travel and visit friends in the summer. And so that's the type of thing that can push the demand for gasoline up. But not only is it pushing the demand for gasoline up, it pushes the demand for all of the competing products with gasoline as well. And so it's not just that people want to drive, but it's all of the other parts of the transportation industry are driving their particular gas equivalent products. And so they're all feeding off of one another and driving it higher. That usually eases a little bit when school starts again.
And we know gasoline prices weren't the only type of energy costs that are rising. We saw the price of electricity jump up this year, 11.7%. So what is pushing up this cost?
So sometimes that's as simple as just problems with the grid and generating electricity, right? One of the things that we've seen this summer is that it's the hottest on record. And so when it's hot, everybody reaches for the air conditioner. And so peak capacity then is going to be pushing prices higher because you can't build a new plant that quickly. So given your constraints, it's just going to drive prices higher. It's supply and demand.
All right, Dr. Lander. Now, we mentioned that food price inflation is expected to continue easing in the coming months, but just by how much, Dr. Lander?
It's not going to come down to 3% anytime in the near future, but the fact that it's come down from double digits to single digits is a big accomplishment. Even if it comes down to 5, 6%, that's a big, big drop. And it's going to be something that maybe people are going to start to feel a little bit more when they go to the grocery store. I wouldn't suggest, though, that food prices are going to outright drop. It's just they're not going to accelerate as much.
All right, Dr. Lander. And do you think we might see another rate hike in the near future because of these inflationary numbers?
So I keep getting these things wrong, Nima, but I'm going to say in September they can let it pass. It's the October one that I'm watching at this point, because when we get the September meeting, they're going to get GDP numbers, and it's probably going to show that the economy slowed, if not shrunk a little bit. And so they might want to wait for one more month's worth of labor market data, one more month worth of inflation data, and maybe a little bit of a look at the beginning of the third quarter before they decide whether they really want to go for one more interest rate increase.
And how do we know, and what do we know so far about how these interest rate hikes may have impacted the housing market and sales?
Some people are saying that the housing market is slowing, but the reality is that supply is not keeping pace with demand. So no matter how much people think that prices are going to fall, at some point they are going to turn around and start to rise rapidly. Some markets are already reporting that prices are back on the rebound. So I don't know that this is really going to take some of the stuffing out of housing and making it affordable for all.
All right, unfortunate. All right, Dr. Lander, just about a minute left here, but we've heard a lot of concerns about a recession during the early days of these rate hikes, during the middays. Where are we at when it comes to these concerns now?
I always believe that recessions are something that's intensely personal. Whether it meets the technical definition of declining GDP or not is really not the issue to me. It's an issue of, do you have a job? Do your friends have a job? Does your family have a job? If everybody around you has a job, I could come on here and tell you that we're in a recession and you'd say, I don't believe it. And if you don't have a job and your friends don't have a job and your family don't have a job, and I say that the economy is doing beautifully, you would say, I don't believe it. So it really is something that's intensely personal. And so it's just take a look around you and how do you feel? If psychologically you feel like it's a recession, then it's a recession. Don't worry what the data says.
All right, Dr. Lander, always great having you on Forum Daily. Thank you again for your time.
Anytime.